Dudes and dreads, what's going on with y'all this week? I finally decided to check out Norse mythology. A friend of mine recommended this a while back, and I was just hesitant to delve into it for no particular reason. But no reason be damned, we're going in. Spoilers abound, so skip to me final thoughts if y'all want to avoid plot details. So this kicks off with Neil Gaiman talking about his love for Norse mythology, born from a fascination with mighty Thor in the Marvel Comics. I actually appreciate this because this makes me feel hope that this will be more of a love letter to Norse mythology than a modern retelling. This is exactly what I love about the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, is that you can feel the appreciation for the source material even if Christopher Tolkien didn't agree. This is pretty interesting to me because I have a very casual understanding of pieces of Greek mythology. Certain things stick out to me, such as Odin riding Loki's strange child into battle. However, this is painted out almost as a fictional story all its own, and is interesting in that. It starts with an introduction to our main characters, if you will. Thor, Loki, and Odin. Odin is wise but abstract and often mysterious. Thor is the thunderer but straightforward. Loki is excessively cunning and handsome but also full of darkness. It's an interesting way to understand them, and you can see the inspiration that leaked into other tellings by people like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. So I'm not even going to try to remember all the names of everybody in this story and embarrass us all, but there's a plane of fire and a plane of ice.
Burning plains are next to the freezing plains? I bet there's some pretty wet plains in between.
And in the wet plains there was born a giant and a huge cow. The giant suckled on the cow and got more giant, just in case you forgot this myth was Greek. The giant, who is sexless, has a few kids that want to kill him and make the earth and heavens, and from them all giants are born. This would bring me to one of my issues with Greek and Roman mythology, is that they're just batshit insane. Maybe it's one of those things that makes more sense if you grow up with it, but everything I just described has me scratching my head. So the gods are basically upset because they've got this beautiful planet and no one to do anything on it, like whenever you have a new grill and you have no friends to barbecue for. So they make two people out of dirt. The greatest being breathes the breath of life into them, and these two people are the mother and father of all humanity. No, you didn't suddenly flip over to Genesis, but you might be forgiven for thinking so. So there are 9 worlds connected by the world tree, and follow me here. At the top of the tree, there's an owl and a hawk that sits on top of the owl. So the bottom owl and top hawk have a squirrel that brings them messages from beings that eat dead bodies. But the squirrel is a dick and loves to lie, just cuz. This is on Metal Gear level right now. So we go over each of the 9 worlds. There's a world of the gods, a world of the elves, a world of the dwarves, a world of the frost giants, and so on and so forth. The book is more exposition than story right now, and I get that, that's because it has to be, but that doesn't make it any less mind-bending to listen to. So we start off because Odin hung himself and starved himself on the world tree, and from that he gained great sight and wisdom. Then he goes to his uncle's pool to drink from because it will grant him great wisdom. His uncle demands Odin's eye for a drink from the pool, and so Odin greatly reduces his own depth perception. I'm sensing a pattern here. Anyhow, after a war that I didn't get to hear about ends, Odin sends his uncle to be the advisor of the king of one of the other worlds, and his uncle is so great at it. But when uncle isn't around, the king isn't so very good at his job, so they behead uncle and send the head to Odin. Not sure why they were mad at Uncle, because he was just doing his job. Anyhow, Odin rubs Uncle's head with herbs and it gives him advice. I don't know what kind of advice, but Odin takes the head and puts it back into the magic wisdom pool. I really have no words at this point. Normally I would point out inconsistency or praise a book for absorbing moments or solid writing, but this feels weirdly immune to any of that because there is no solid footing. It genuinely feels like 4 dudes got really drunk, began making up stories, and then some 5th party just transcribed everything. Anyhow, Thor wakes up one day and his wife is bald, and he goes to talk to Loki about it. There's one thing I especially like. He says that he's gonna go kick Loki's ass, and Sif is like, why do you think Loki's involved? Thor simply says, when something goes wrong, I blame Loki. It saves a lot of time. And that just sums that up so damn well. So Thor tells Loki to put his wife's hair back or he'll start to break every bone in his body. Loki goes to the dwarf family and says, yo fam, other families talking shit about you saying they can make better stuff. We're gonna host a contest, but you gotta make some hair as one of your things. One of them, allegedly wise, though, says, sounds like you're causing trouble again. But Loki says no, and we don't question it. So, the dwarves of family 2 agree to the challenge, and say that if their family wins, they get to keep Loki's head. Competition day comes around, and Loki sabotaged one of the gifts so that he would not lose his head. The gift that he interfered with just so happened to be Mjolnir, which is why the handle of the hammer is so short. It's actually a rather interesting origin story for the hammer, and it's arguably the first time a full story has been told in this mythos. It's good. I like it. This is 5 chapters in, but hey, a story finally. So, Loki, now worried for his head, points out how nice and beautiful the hair family one made for Sif is. Thor, finally having found his true love in the hammer, is like, yeah, but badass hammer. It's pretty funny and actually made me laugh aloud, which is something I doubt I would have gotten from deciphering the story from the older iterations. Is good. So, the dwarf of family 2 is super happy because now he gets Loki's head. Loki basically yells, you'll never take me alive! So, dwarf turns to Thor and just says, hey, mind catching your bro for me? Thor says, Well, I shouldn't, but on the other hand, I did just get this badass hammer, and I would really like to test it out. So, Dwarf is unable to cut off Loki's head because of legalism, but decides to sew his mouth shut anyway. Next story is about how the gods decide they need a wall to keep out all the frost giants, because Thor can't be around all the time, and apparently he's the only one that can defend them. So, some dude just so happens to show up and says, hey, I'll build it in 3 seasons, but I want that chick's hand in marriage, and I want the sun, and I want the moon. Contractors can be dicks even in mythology, I suppose. So, the gods agree that that's all ridiculous and they won't pay him until Loki speaks up, mouth presumably unsewn now. He says that they should let him try, but only give him a third of the time. No help is allowed, and if he can't do it in that time, he doesn't get paid. They all congratulate each other on being so smart because this mortal is arrogant, and surely they will therefore accept. Freya doesn't trust this because she doesn't trust Loki, because Loki stole her necklace while she was bathing. It was a seal at the time. I swear I'm not making this up. Anyhow, this dude is actually a giant, and with his horse, he's managing to complete the wall on time. So Loki distracts the horse by turning into a mare, which he can apparently do, and the giant cannot finish the wall in time. In a rage, he tries to attack the gods, but Thor comes back and kills him. Loki comes back a year later, having given birth to an 8-legged horse that Odin now rides because it's amazing. And Loki makes anyone who mentions the fact that he got fucked and impregnated by a horse miserable. What? They complete the wall, and I'm left wondering if there's a point or a moral meaning in any of what just went down. Anyhow, we learn about Loki's kids, because he has 2 sons with a wife that he maybe torments, and then he goes off to bang a frost giant on the side, because what good is being a son of Odin if you ain't got no side piece, I guess. Anyhow, he has 3 kids by his frost bitch, and they're weird. One girl is half dead, literally the right half of her body is dead and decomposing. He has a son who is a snake longer than a pine tree. So they put the snake in the ocean, they make the girl run hell, and his final child is a giant wolf that never stops growing. The gods trick it, tie it to a mountain, and leave it there, bound by a ribbon it cannot break, and the wolf swears revenge. While I can't blame Gaiman for this, certainly it is a weird book, and every Greek myth is basically their gods being dicks. That's practically the point of every story thus far. There are a great many other stories, Thor cross-dressing to partake in a fake wedding, Odin tricking someone into letting him bang their niece for a few days to trick her into letting him steal some good mead, Loki getting into a tug-of-war with a goat using his dick. You know, Greek god things. I won't cover every story, but just know that there's a singular line in this book that sticks out. No one, then or since, wanted to drink the mead that came out of Odin's ass. My personal score is 7 out of 10 for being what it is. As a full story, I'd likely be harsher, but this book is more of an updated love letter than a full creation, so I'm being a bit kinder. Let's go ahead and take a look at that bingo card. It's actually weird to look at this because many of these things either can be marked off or could be left blank all at once. However, this is what I settled on, and we actually did not hit bingo. Anyhow, that's all for this time, so if you have something else you want me to review, go ahead and leave a comment down below, let me know. If you want to see what we get into next time, go ahead and subscribe. Until then, drink plenty of water, tell your parents that you love them, and stroke your mustache at night.